Hello, everybody. It's your man, Alex Estrada. Today, I'm going to be teaching you the 75% rule. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So let me go over here. So the 75% rule. Okay, as you can see, it came prepared. I wanted to write down specific information to help you understand what the 75% rule is and how we implement it on wholesale deals. So let's start off by asking, what is the 75% rule? Well, the 75% rule is a rule that investors use to determine where they need to be on a fix and flip. Example, when a buyer wants to pick up a property, they determine the following. They determine the purchase price, the rehab, closing costs, listing agent, and miscellaneous stuff. All above has to be accounted for and be at a 75% all in of total value. Investors want to receive 25% return of investment. So pretty much what this is saying is that, the investor wants to be at a 75% all in of what the total value of the property is. So for an example, if you have a property that is 100,000, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 954 square feet. So what they do is first thing they do on everything is they find out what the ARV is, and then they times that by 0.75. And so what that would equal is a 75% number that they have to stick at or under in order to get their 25% return back on the investment. So let's just go ahead and calculate. If the rehab was at 30,000, if the purchase price was at 30,000, closing costs, listing agent, miscellaneous, etc., was at 13,000. That means this investor is all in for this property at $73,000. And as you can see here, the budget is 75,000. So that means that they were able to stick underneath it, and they also picked up an additional $2,000. So the profit on this property for this investor would be at $32,000. So using the formula for the wholesale deals, wholesalers typically don't factor in what your typical investor factors in, okay? It's a total different ball game for wholesalers, okay? They don't need they typically they honestly don't factor in what stuff that the investor would normally factor in. So for example, instead of factoring in the purchase price, rehab costs, closing costs, miscellaneous stuff, your average investor adds together, wholesalers add only 3 things, and that's purchase price, rehab, and assignment fee to determine where they need to be at with their sellers and where they need to be at with their buyers to make their assignment fee. So for an example, let's just say we have another property. It's the ARV on this one is 100,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 900 square feet. Pretty similar to the first example. So if you were to use this as a formula, it would look like this. 100K times 0.75% equals 75,000. Now, the 75,000, you deduct the rehab, which is $30,000. So now you're left with 45,000. Now, typically, let me go ahead and add this in there. So typically, this number is where you want to be with the buyer, okay? So let's just say now that you have the 45,000, now you can add and factor in your assignment fee. So we do 45,000 here. We're trying to make 10,000 is on our assignment fee. That's typically what you want to always aim for on every deal. So you do 45,000 minus 10,000 assignment fee, which would equal 35,000. This is where you want to be at with the seller. Okay, and as you can see here, I also put MAO. This is an acronym for, this is another way of saying maximum allowable offer. Okay, that's maximum allowable offer is the offer that you must stick to pick up the property at that, how would I say this? Like 35,000 is if the maximum allowable offer is 35,000, you need, and in order to make your $10,000 assignment fee, you must stick at $35,000 or less on the, with the seller. So let's just say that you get the seller at 30,000. Well, boom, use of common sense will tell you you're making an extra 5,000. But if you go above 35,000, you are going to start cutting into the $10,000. So as you can see here, 35,000 is where you want to be at with the seller, and with the buyer, you want to sell it at 45,000. Remember, this number right here is where you want to be with your buyer before, before you start factoring in your $10,000. So that's pretty much what the 75% rule is. That's how you factor in. Now you understand what the 75% rule is. So I encourage you to start utilizing this method to bring in wholesale deals. Now, I do want to add that when you're using this 75% rule, okay, this is strictly for fix and flip deals. This is typically what all wholesalers use. They use that 75%, but there are buyers out there that do pick up at up to 80%. And if you find a hedge fund buyer or somebody like that who doesn't really care about equity, well, you pretty much can, you can pretty much sell it to those investors at a higher percentage, all in. But 75%, between 70 and 75% is typically where you want to be on a property when you're factoring in, your numbers. So I encourage you to use 75% as a secondary option. Your first option, what we do here at Hedgehog Investments, we factor in 70%, because that extra 5% that you're going to, when you're working at a 70% on the front end with the seller, okay, and you sell it on the back end as a 75% deal to the buyer, that extra 5% that you're not factoring in with your seller, that's additional income and profit that you can make. And it's also a good way of, of establishing some type of cushion when you're negotiating with the back-end buyer. And if you get it at full price on the back-end buyer at 75%, well, hey, man, good for you. You made an additional 5%. So now that you understand what the 75% rule is, go out there and make some money. Have a good day.